Hello, everybody. Wonderful, beautiful people from different parts of the world.
All right.
I'm
So,
super happy to be here today.
all right. So, Ivan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be sharing screen in a second. Just wanted before I become a blur of text in a PowerPoint. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. There are a lot of familiar faces, familiar names, and hello to everybody I still don't know. So I hope that next time when I'm in your part of the world or in my part of the world, you say hi and I get to meet you in person. Usually during this time of the year, I am in somewhere in Southeast Asia where it's a bit warmer. I'm currently here in Hamburg, Germany, and today is one of the only sunny days in the last month, and the temperature is around -2 Celsius, which is not super cold for other parts, but I like it warm. So let me start sharing my screen very quickly. Choose the application tab option while sharing the screen. So you're present. Okay. Good. So let me know. Can you see my screen, Felix? Can you please quickly confirm? Felix?
Yes, people are confirming that they can see your
Good.
screen.
The thing is, Keynote that I'm using is very, very needy. And it takes both of my screens, even though if I turn off the presentation mode. So bear with me. I have asked Felix to interrupt me at any point you have a question or comment or anything. I also from time to time exit the presentation mode just to see with you what's going on. But before we start, since not everybody knows me, let me introduce myself. My name is Ivan. I'm a level 3 from Hamburg, Germany, originally from Croatia. I have been a judge for, I believe, 18-ish years, playing 20-ish. It's a bit difficult to count. I've been coming to Southeast Asia for, well, if you don't count last year, let's say somewhere around 5 years, and I enjoy being there every time. I love food, I love culture, I love people, and I love the warmth, as I have mentioned before. So, what do I do besides judging a lot? I am actually one of those coaches that got mentioned. I work as a management coach. I also work as an agile coach. I also run big projects, programs, and stuff like that. And one of the topics I'm very, very passionate about is feedback, which has been mentioned already, and QJ has done a wonderful job presenting it. And conflict management is kind of like the add-on on it, right? I believe those two skills are some of those that are usually come together because every critical feedback, it used to be called as a negative, but I prefer the word critical. Critical feedback can be a potential conflict which we disagree. So, and I'm basically going to say, I know some of you maybe haven't seen the QJs because you have now both tracks coming together. I'll be piggybacking a little bit on what was said before, because this is kind of like a natural progression and continuation of the topics. So, let's see what we'll be talking about today, a little bit in the agenda. So, we'll be talking a little bit about some conflict ingredients, expectations, spectrum, styles resolution, and sources. It's a lot. It's very buzzwordy, but you'll be getting there. So my intention today is not to give you a huge overall comprehensive look at feedback and go super deep. The idea is to more like give you hints if you decide to go deeper, and I'm giving you some materials and some stuff where you can look into if you want to discover this topic for yourself. First, let us define it. And one important note is that a conflict is very differently defined in different cultures. Since I'm someone who's living in Western Europe, I have been visiting both US and Southeast Asia, so I know a bit about these cultures, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. And that's where I will need your help. Since I'm now a guest in your culture, I would need your help to help me make this a bit more precise and more useful for you. Because normally when I'm doing these presentations in Europe, most of the audience is coming with a similar cultural background, and those things make more sense, or at least my definitions do. Um, so yeah, please raise your hand and really do interrupt me. I do not have enough slides and enough monologue to fill the entire hour, and I don't want to. I want you to get a good start into this topic, and you can only do this if you use this opportunity and ask questions. And Felix is going to be there to make sure that I answer them and see them. So, what is a conflict? What are conflict ingredients? And I'm going to take a very liberal definition, and I basically say as soon as we have some kind of disagreement over a subject, we are already potentially in conflict. Okay? I know that some cultures, they say, okay, disagreement is not really a conflict. It's kind of very, people don't take it personal. We can disagree. Just to make things a bit simpler, I'm saying, okay, as soon as we have a difference of opinion, we are already entering the conflict area. Okay? And you're going to see there, I'm not going to be super consistent about it, and I'm going to need the word disagreement in a different context as well, because, yeah, you're going to see it. So that's the first ingredient we need to have. So we need to have a difference of opinion between two or multiple parties. Then we need to have something we need to disagree over. That something needs to be scarce. One of the examples I was giving in 2020 was toilet paper, at least in Europe, with the Corona crisis. I don't know how much toilet paper was a scarce topic in your part of the world. But this can also be, for example, if we are disagreeing over a subject matter, right, over a ruling, and we are in disagreement over a rule. Well, what is a scarce thing there? It is ability to be right? So there can be only one correct answer, and that's basically scarce. So scarcity can be over. So subject can be something material, like a toilet paper, or it can be something immaterial, like ability to be won, right? If you look at a conflict like from a magic match, which is also a conflict, right? We disagree over a subject, so who should win? Scarcity is there can only be one winner, right? And the last thing is property rights dispute. Sounds very buzzwordy. I haven't found a very elegant way how to write it, but let me explain. It means that I believe I have right and I should decide, right? And in the context of a magic match, that would mean is I believe I'm a better player of two of us, right? And I believe I can prove it by demonstrating my skills in a game. Does it make sense? Any comments, confusions? So Felix, please interrupt me if you see anybody reacting.
I don't see much at the moment.
Okay, so to summarize, basically we need to have a difference of opinion. The thing which we are disagreeing over needs to be limited, like only one winner, and we both believe that the other side should decide, right? I believe I should decide, and you believe you should decide. One of the ways, and maybe that's an easy trick, or how do you solve conflicts, is if you remove one of these three things. So if we stop having a difference of opinion by finding different information or something like that, well, we are no longer in conflict, right? And I'm seeing a lot of people going that route as the only way how to do it, right? Okay, if I disagree with you, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to throw more information on top of you, right? And then you have like argument wars. And it's not the only one. Other one is, okay, if there is more toilet paper around, well, we don't have a discussion anymore, right? So what can we add more stuff? Can we have add more things and eliminate scarcity? And the last part is, okay, well, we might able to resolve a conflict by calling a mediator. In example of magic tournaments, it's a judge, right? If we disagree over the ruling, we don't fight over it, right? Okay, scarcity is still there because there is only one correct ruling, but we call a judge, and that way the conflict gets resolved very quickly, right? So that's basically one way you can already take these three elements, how you can use it in your everyday life. When you see a conflict, think about, okay, can I add more stuff? Can I find a mediator? Or can I change, can we agree who should decide, like a judge in the case of a magic example? Or can we just no longer have a difference of opinion? Okay, let's do a quick exercise. I do hope I know some of you might be eating dinner, so I'm sorry for interrupting you. But this is going to take like a minute or two. And what you need a piece of paper, or you need open a Word editor on your PC, since I know that AirMeet doesn't work on mobile phones. You can also take a mobile phone, so anything you can write. You'll just need to write a couple of words. So, are you ready? I'm gonna give you a second or two. Are they thumbs upping? Are people thumbs upping?
Yep, and there are people saying, yep, yes, ready, and the likes at the chat.
Good, good. Okay, thank you very much, Felix. I like you. I like your help very, very much.
And you,
Um, Good. So what you need to do is write the first 10 words that come to your mind when you think about conflict or conflicts. So just do that. First 10 words. It's important not to think too much about it. And go. And once you have done that, please write in the chat or just use a reaction thumbs up so the Felix can let me know to proceed further. And I'll take some water. So how are you doing?
some people are starting to type into the chat
Okay.
the words that they have in mind.
No, you
So,
don't need to type into the chat the words. You just need to for yourself, right? There is no need to type. It's just for you to create a list of 10 words.
all right, so people, you don't have to type it in.
Oh, just type it somewhere for yourself so you
Yeah,
have the list of words because we'll be looking at that list a little bit. And
yeah.
it's, again, everybody for themselves. There is no need to share. But now that some people have shared, I'm a little bit curious. So I'll be looking into the chat a bit later. Okay? Needing more time?
Yeah, we have some people already commenting done.
Okay?
One said magic. Gerard has a halo.
Okay. So, let me wait 10 seconds more. I have nice countdown here. So 5, like a Happy New Year thingy countdown. Okay. So for those who have you finished, or for you who have, let's say, at least 5, 6 words, I'm interested to see, are those words mostly positive or negative? So what, and you're trying to figure out what's your default attitude towards conflict. And that's something I would like you to write into the chat. Is it just positive? So if you look at these 10 words, are they mostly positive or are they mostly negative? And that's what I'm interested in, Felix, when words start coming in. So just write positive or negative, depending what the majority of these words are. So anything, Felix, coming yet?
I'm sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry, I didn't
Ah,
recognize that I'm on mute. But yeah, most people said that it's negative.
mhm.
Some says 50-50. I read that there's one that's 60%.
Okay. So, and that's expected, right? So thank you, Felix. Most of the people do say, okay, conflict is something to be avoided. Conflict is something like we should not do that. Again, I'm gonna talk in stereotypical culture settings, right? For example, one of the things I have noticed huge difference towards conflict compared to Germany is when I was in Japan because I was spending quite some time there and quite some amount of judge events, right? And also that also can lead to this whole okay, feedback, especially when it's not a positive feedback, when it's not a praise, is kind of something that people don't want into. I'm assuming that to at least some of you, this is a familiar association with conflicts and feedback in general, right? Negative, let's not go there, right? Uh, what I want to One thing that if you take one thing away from this presentation is that conflicts are not necessarily extremely negative, and I would like to at least balance your default attitude a little bit towards the positive side, right? Yes, they are feeling, they can feel very bad and something I don't want to deal with. But like a good critical feedback, they might open your eyes, and you might end up in a better place than where you started. And I will give you a couple of techniques and a couple of ways how to steer the conflict towards a more productive area and how to, yeah. how to change this association. I tried and I have. I'm not always succeeding. My always first reaction to any conflict is like, oh, okay, let's go to that. But in the end, right, there are some good. I have some very good examples. Like one actually happened yesterday, and I had one wonderful managerial moment. Was I was declining a person for a position, so they applied to work in my team, and in the end, we had a conversation of about an hour, and in the end, the person was happy because person, although receiving a negative answer, and that was possible conflict, right? Because they really wanted to work in my team, and we both invested about 2 months throughout the process. The person was super happy because the person learned a lot about themselves during the process and didn't feel this as a waste of time, although the answer wasn't what they wanted. And that was a conflicting situation, right? Because I needed to tell the person that they're not going to get what they want. But in the end, I have someone who I'm actually willing to hire in the future. They got a list of things they need to work on, and I'm super happy to stay in contact. And that was for me a conflict worth having, or potential conflict. But okay, I'm stopping about my reminiscing, and let's continue with the topic. The first technique or first visualization or metaphor I would like you to have is, I call it this conflict spectrum. And when you look at this one, you can see that basically we have two types of extremes. On one hand, more towards the destructive end, we have the mean-spirited personal attacks, right? That's basically when someone physically attacks you, right? If you're looking at the one-on-one level, or if you look at the more scale, like war goes into that direction, right? So it's direct. There is a lot of directive, destructive force towards you. On the other extreme, you have artificial harmony. When the people in conflict, that is more in the artificial harmony, they are more in, let's say, we pretend everything is fine, although we hate our guts very secretly. You can have a lot of scheming, politicking, backstabbing behaviors happening there. Does it make sense? Any questions so far regarding this one? Felix, if you're talking, you're muted. Okay, I assume makes sense so far, right? We have those two extremes. So what do we do with this? What is the goal? The goal is to get away from these extremes and try to get, and in this world, I would love to have I believe you can see my pointer. I would love to be able to get to this middle. And this is a middle where we are not necessarily seeing eye to eye, but we are in the space where it is uncomfortable, but we are able to do something with it, right? In some medium, in some areas, you might find this as a constructive disagreement or constructive conflict, right? I call it outside of comfort zone, right? And when I'm there, and I will let you know how I can come there, then we can talk about our disagreements, right? And let me give an example. What do you do if you're at the event and a person aggressively, pushes a chair or throws an object like a deck box or something like that? What is the first things you do? Please use the chat. And I'm going to try to see if I can actually, what happens if I try to see it? Okay, I'm exiting presentation mode. So what do you do? Okay, you ask why. Okay, remove from the game. But what do you do in that moment, right? Let's imagine you're a little close and you observe it, right? Yes. In the end, you end up, okay, you call a judge. What if you're a judge there, or you're the organizer, or you're someone next, right? Check if someone got hurt. Yeah. What do you say to that person? Hi. Ask person what's going on. Okay. Is there a problem? Okay. Can I help you with something? Good. All good answers. As there's inconvenience. Yeah. So you're basically trying to de-escalate situation, right? And I'm gonna go into the screen sharing again. So basically what you're trying to do is you're moving from this destructive end, you're trying to push it more towards artificial harmony, right? You're bringing some harmony into that encounter, right? You're trying to everything fine. Let's just breathe. I want to understand. I want to help, right? Everything. Maybe in the end you're going to DQ the person and kick them out from the event, but you're not, while the person is raging, you're not like, throwing the chair back to them, or you're not adding more aggression in aggressive state, right? Make sense? Assume yes, right? Okay. So what do we do if you find people in artificial harmony? And I'm gonna exit the take away for pip and try to find it going out. So these are all elements of de-escalating. So what do you do if you find people in artificial harmony? Trying to use the same logic, right? When we were in a destructive situation, we were trying to add some harmony. What if we are too artificial harmonious situation? What do we do then? Anyone? Okay, it's tiring. I know it's end of the day. Try to ask them of their concerns, both parties separately, and try to mediate. Yeah, so you're probing, you're asking questions, right? And let me now go a little bit. I needed to restart my keynote. So what you basically do is you try to push people again towards the middle. And you actually do that but by being pushy in a point, right? You're inserting elements of aggression, right? So one of the things that I do, but again, this is a high level, mediation skill, is if I find people in this, we're agreeing, everything's fine, and I smell there is artificial harmony, I basically call them on their, how do you put this politely, BS, right? I told them like, no, I don't believe everything is fine here, right? I'm trying to surface the conflict. And in my experience as a coach and a mediator, dealing with artificial harmony is generally more difficult than with this mean-spirited, because especially if you look at into professional environments, today it's not okay to hit someone at work, right? So if you today at work want to be, let's say, aggressive, but passively aggressive, right? Then we're going to do this, in the background, scheming, backstabbing and stuff. So the first step you do there is you actually try to call it out, right? And one of the things you can do this in a more, let's say, in your own environment, if you want to try this thing. So let's imagine you are, you sense this with your partner or in your family or somewhere you feel safe, right? And you sense something is off, right? A lot of people, especially if you're conflict averse, you're just going to go over it and you're going to kind of put it under the carpet, right? There is a metaphor in Europe. But what could also be very, very helpful, very good is, okay, I sense something. Is there something you want to talk about, right? This is a way how you're breaking this artificial harmony, right? And this is potentially provocative question. So it's good to let's say find a good space for that. Like if you see the person being very, very destructive, very unsettled, or very emotional state, you don't go there and say, okay, I see something's going on, because it's adding oil to the fire, right? But if you see a person and you see the situation which is very not moving anywhere, then you try to push it a bit. Make sense? But I would suggest to be careful how to apply these things. I'm hearing a lot of window blowing sounds. Okay, it's not my window. So
Ivan, I have a question regarding adding a little bit of aggression to
yeah.
the situation. Um, have you tried that in a GP level here in Asia? Was there a particular instance that you have to do that?
You mean dealing with this situation? Well, the thing is, I'm not as so I was always a guest at the GPs, right, in a way. So me as a coming to that one, so I was mostly in the. Although I do have a certain level of friends there, right, and I also got invited to those GPs, and I'm also level 3, which also a little bit makes things more difficult because hierarchy is another important aspect in Southeast Asia. I have. So for me, people are, if I ask a direct question, people are more likely to answer, right? So I'm in a position, and I'm also someone who get invited by whoever is the head judge, organizer, we know each other, and those things are also visible. So I can't, and also one of the things I also, when I might have observed the body language of a group which was in this, let's say, passive aggressive artificial harmony stance, I don't know enough of language to understand what's going on, right? I have done something generally in GPs within my teams. If I sense, there is something going on between two team members, right? Where then I would either take them aside and then do the mediation thingy, right? Or if I see it in a group setting where I deem it's generally safe enough to basically call it on them, then I might say, okay, I see something going on, what's going on, right? And it can also be about, a person, it can be something trivial, right? For example, a person is tired and doesn't want to admit that, right? Because they're first GPs, they want to prove they're the best and, all the other stuff, not drinking enough water. And I might even call on that person, right? And they are kind of, no, it's everything fine, everything is fine, right? And it's a very trivial conflict, but it's still a type of conflict. Does it make sense, Felix?
It does. It does. Thank you.
Yeah, this is an advanced skill. I would not suggest you just going and saying, haha, I see you doing there something, let me hit you and then let's resolve the conflict, right? It's a very subtle skill. I just wanted to give it as one of the things we are programmed to do is when we see aggression, we de-escalate, but we don't know what to do with this artificial harmony thingies, right? And in organizations, you generally have more of this, right? And I just wanted to tell you that the way how you do it is to find a way how to call it on it. Cool. Happy that example helped. Okay. Please do challenge me, right? Because again, some of these things make more sense in my head and maybe I'm not saying something out loud. And when you ask me a question or especially disagree with me, that helps me a lot because then I know more what's going on your side of the screen. Okay. Now moving forward, also wanted to be respectful of your time and dinner time. So that was the spectrum. Now let's jump on some of the styles or techniques or strategies of resolving conflict. And you're going to notice one of the things, and I make a joke of this, is, in social sciences, in order to call them sciences, they need to add some graphs, right? In order to make it quantified, right? You look more sciencey. So we're going to look at this model works with two basically axes or two parts. One is the relationships, another is the result. Relationship means how close or how strong relation you have with the person. And so as a starting point, and also how important it is for me in this situation. Okay? And this goes a little bit into that discussion, if you remember from QJ, is about asking a why question, right? You ask a why question only when you have a high relationship. And so you can take the relationship as that measurement as well. And the other one is result or the outcome of it, right? How important is for me to get what I wanted to get, right? If you remember to these three components, one was the scarcity, right? How important is for me to get that result, that this scarcity goes into my favor, right? That this item we are discussing about or we are conflicting about is, I get it, right? Okay, makes sense. And based on that, based on those two, and we're going to map a couple of different resolution styles. Because one thing I want to show you is that there is not one solution fits all. And this model helps me a lot to basically see, okay, where I'm right now in relationship with the conflicting person. And I'm going to just tell you now, I'm going to use a model that, for example, I'm with someone else, right? One-on-one. If you need to do this, if you have multiple groups in conflict with each other, you basically have multiple sets of one-on-ones, right? If we have, let's say, three-party conflict, well, I may be in conflict with this person and with another person at the same time. What I basically do is, okay, I have one-on-one conflict here and one-on-one conflict there, and they have one-on-one between themselves, right? So that's how you break this, let's say, multiple conflicts into basically a lot of pairs. So starting now, right? Felix, interrupt me if at any point anybody has a question because there is quite a lot of content here.
I will.
Thank you very much. Good. So if I don't really care about the result, right? So I don't care to win, right? And if I don't care, I don't have big relationship, right? So it's not someone I really care about. I will basically, the easiest thing to do is to try to avoid a conflict at all. By the way, you're going to see this lose-lose, win-lose, because there is one very popular, very old-fashioned conflict resolution, let's say, methodology, which more goes into this win-lose, let's say, perspective, right? The first one is me, so I lose and they also lose. I'm going to explain this. It's not super popular today. It's not, let's say, it's a bit of outdated, but it's super famous, so people know it. That's why I'm referencing it here as well. So I'm trying to avoid the conflict, right? And let me give you an example. If I'm in a restaurant for the first time, so means my relationship with that restaurant is very low, and let's say I didn't get the dish which how I wanted, how I liked it. So I don't care that, for example, my currywurst. Someone asked me what it is. That's a very famous dish in Berlin, in this part of the Germany. It's a sausage, right? If it wasn't spiced properly, and I don't care, but I just don't care, right? I'm too tired. It's a dinner time. I might just go over it, right? I will avoid the conflict. I will not go into discussion, right? And why is it lose? Lose because I didn't get what I wanted, and the other party, well, let's assume they wanted to get something out of that one. They also didn't get anything, right? We didn't resolve the conflict. It's still there. I'm just avoiding it. And again, coming back to the cultures which have high aversion to conflict, think about which conflict you want to avoid, right? Not all of them are good to be avoided because they might come blow up in your face. Some of them can't be avoided, right? Okay, let me now jump on the other extreme, right? Let's imagine I still don't care about the relationship of the person, but I do care about result. Okay, so can you give me maybe a question? If someone can quickly give me an example of that one, right? So I'm in a situation where I really want to win, and I want the other side really much to lose. I'm interested to see if anybody can recognize that one, because I guarantee you have observed plenty of this type of conflicts.
There's one answer. So
Yeah.
far, Ron said
And
cheating, manipulation, a game of magic. Brian said,
yeah, and Game of Magic is actually what I was looking for, right? So it's a competition, right? You don't go into competition. Let's imagine you're playing some high level event, right? Again, if you don't care about result and you go to just, and you're gonna go into that one later, right? So let's imagine we are now at the Magic Fest GP, right? And you're playing for the top 8 entry, right? You really want to win, and I'm not saying here that what kind of methods you're doing, right? Cheating definitely goes into a competition. You don't want to cheat unless you don't care for result, right? But you can also compete, and you don't go to those type of events to necessarily make friends, right? You are gonna be sports like, but you're not gonna be I see you really care about this top 8, and look, I'm just gonna be a good Samaritan and give you, you go there to play and win, right? You can also go get there just to go and play and for fun, which is still fine, but people are generally going to competitions to win. Or we watch competitions like sports because we also want the other side to win, right? Make sense so far?
"Yep,
Okay. Let's not go to the other extreme, right? If I don't care about results, but I do care about relationships. So I go to my local friendly game store and I'm playing Friday Night Magic, where I want to meet friends. I haven't seen them, and let's imagine we are now after this Corona thingy. It's been ages since I've seen and played a game of Magic with them in person. And I'm fine if they win, right? It's more important about spending time together than actually winning, right? So and this is called adaptation. Maybe let me give you a more straightforward example. My partner asks me what restaurant, again, post-corona example, what restaurant we should go to, right? And if I don't really care in which restaurant, because so the result, I don't care about the end result going into a specific restaurant, but I do care about relationship, so I let her choose, right? In that case, I have technically lost because I didn't get to choose the restaurant, and she technically won because she got to choose the restaurant, right? But I just adapted to her. And this is again a valid strategy in those type of situations, right? maybe to do a bit of, let's say, politically incorrect situation, right? When your significant other, if they ever ask you how they look in this outfit, what do you usually answer? Do you tell her like in a competition, this really doesn't work very well, right? And you hammer her with criticism, or hammer them with criticism, or you can say, well, maybe I can change something, but generally it's fine, right? Again, depending on your relationship, I'm taking another very stereotypical example there. Make sense so far?
Yeah, Gerard said he can come up with 10 words for this easily.
Yeah. So, but that's just letting you know that, here at least I'm giving you three different ones, and I know you're doing those because you do adapt in a situations, you do compete in sometimes, you do avoid someone, but the goal is to make it more mindful, right? To actually have it as a strategic approach to resolving conflicts and not just going by the gut feeling. Okay, and now we go into the, let's say, trickier territory. When you do care about results in the relationship, and when you care a bit about both, then you try to meet halfway, and you're trying to make that both sides win and both sides lose, right? You're going in a compromise space. Problem with compromise is in order to know how much to win and how much to lose, I need to know what I am willing to compromise. You'll be surprised how many people go into the conflict without even trying to assess or understand that one, right? They just go, and they probably go with the competition in mind, not knowing that the relationship is important, right? Have you ever been in a situation, or have you ever seen an example where someone got stopped by police for speeding, and then they get aggressive towards the policeman, right? Trying to compete with the policeman in that situation, not necessarily the best one, because you need that relationship to potentially get out of the ticket. And I have an interesting story about that as well, how I managed to get out of the ticket by adapting to the policeman and trying to compromise. So the problem, again, in order to find out what I want, and what I'm willing to compromise, I need to know this for myself, and I need to be able to communicate it. And this requires time and energy, which means that compromise as a strategy is more quote unquote expensive, because you need more time and energy, reflection, yada yada, than any of these three. Because in these other three, you do them basically automatically, right? In adaptation, you choose. I don't need to know what you choose, just go and choose. Competition, I'm going to make sure I win, right? Avoidance, let's not talk about it, right? We don't go there, right? You have very straightforward automatic things. In compromise, we need to start thinking, okay, what I'm willing to let go, what the other person might be willing to let go. Let's talk, let's communicate, creating safe space that those things can be communicated, especially in a conflicting situation which are uneasy, right? Or emotionally charged. So that's another thing, because one thing that I have also seen is that automatically people, in order to avoid conflicts, jump to compromises or cooperations. Cooperation is even more expensive, because not only I need to know what I want, and the other side needs to know as well. We need to communicate this, right? It's the same process with a compromise. But then we need to together find a way that both of us get what we want. And that's expensive. And that can technically be also impossible, right? Then you go into compromise and stuff like that. But this process takes a lot of time. And you can also notice that in a cultures, either organizational cultures or cultures like your state cultures, your religion cultures, right, where you live cultures. If whenever you have a lot of avoidance or conflict, or when you have not avoidance, when you have a lot of conflict aversion and automatic jumping cooperation as the ultimate solution for all conflicts or disagreements, you have a lot of things are moving very slowly. You can probably notice this in a bigger organization. You can notice this in organizations which don't have a good maturity of dealing with those conflicts. I can give an example in the judge program. Judge projects, which haven't been, since Judge Academy took over, they haven't been really going on. But out of thousands and thousands of judge projects, only a couple of actually did do something. And one of the things I got quite often frustrated, because I was one of the people in charge of one of the spheres, and the goal was to kind of get some of the projects together to collaborate. There was no way to to do anything except for cooperation, collaboration. I wasn't able to get and say people, okay, well, let's shut down these 3 projects and create one where all of these people do together, because that's uneasy, right? That's a compromising. But because cooperation was the only way to do, you had a bunch of things. There was no way how to regulate those, and I could see that a lot of people put a lot of energy into their projects, and nothing happened out of it because we were just taking time and hoping that the projects die out, which is very, from a management perspective, it's very, let's say, irresponsible thing to do.
Ivan, I have a message from Joel.
Yeah.
He said, I wonder if there is a scenario or example where the styles overlap, or is it just one or another?
Um, of course they overlap, because if assuming you can see my mouse, right? If you're on the edge and corner here, right? These are just metaphors, right? In cooperation, for example, it's very important that we at the end feel very good about it. The relation didn't suffer or even increase, and everybody got what they want, right? And as soon as you're starting to reduce the result a bit, like if you try to cooperate and you see we cannot get, right? If my girlfriend wants to go skiing and I want to enjoy beaches and warm weather because I don't like winter, well, there is not that many places in the world where we can actually get both what we want, right? And even if we get where, maybe it's not going to be as hot as I would like, or maybe it's not going to be as natural, crispy snow as she would, right? So we maybe start with trying to cooperate and trying to find out these parts of the world, but then soon we can start to be compromising, right? Or at some point, maybe I will even get tired of the entire exercise. Just say, okay, well, you win. Let's just go this year to do skiing, and next year we go to the sun, right? That's compromise, but also adoption. Like, it's adoption for this year scenario, but it's compromise on the process level, right? On the future decisions. So that's one way how we can answer this question. Another way how we can answer this question, and that's actually how I use this, is I first analyze where I am towards the situation, right? If I'm in the magic event, well, I'm in competition, and probably my opponent is also. So I try to see where both of we are. And if we are not in the same space, or depending on which spaces you are, you might need to move either yourself or the other person to make this work. But before jumping that one, I'm going to ask Felix, did I answer the question?
There's no reply yet from Joel.
Okay. So Joel, please do right. I'm interested to see, because again, makes sense in my hand. This is just a model to generally think about it. Avoidance and adaptation, why they are close? Because the relation becomes more important, right? In avoidance, we are not talking about it. I'm making everything I can not to discuss this one. In adaptation, at least the conflict is resolved because I said, yeah, let's do it your way, right? So would I say avoidance probably doesn't overlap with any of those? And again, please do take all of this, this border between avoidance and adoption could be a bit higher or lower. This is just a metaphorical representation, right?
Yeah, Joel said yes.
Okay. And I'm very quickly going to jump into this way, that let's imagine that in ideal world, if I really want to win, I want my opponent to concede, right? And you might have observed this in some of the just before top 8 matches, where some discussions start, right? Where one person says, well, if you let me, especially after they've been playing for a while, and they see they might end up in draw and only the winner gets to go in top 8, well, then you have some very creative discussions. Some of them could be legal, some of them are verging on illegal, right? But if I'm in that situation as a player, I still want to get to top 8, and I want to convince my opponent to let me win, right? To concede, which means I want my opponent to move to adaptation, right? Because that's the only way how I can get what I want, is by actually winning. There are a couple of ways to do that. So just looking at this model, I can do either by making sure that the result axis is less important for my opponent, right? So give you an example. Yeah, if you look at the how many points do you have? Okay, I have, or what's your tiebreakers? I have better tiebreakers. I have a more chance of making top 8, right? Than you do. Basically, with that sentence, I'm trying to reduce the importance of results, right? And then I'm moving the person lower on that axis, right? So from competition, I can get to move them into the, towards the left. So compromise, we probably cannot compromise because there can only be one winner, right? So I need to move it in more, right? That's one way. And then I can also say something like, well, next time, I'm not talking about this if this is legal or not, but I could say something like, next time, I'm gonna, if you're in the same situation, I'm gonna let you win, right? I'm gonna concede to you. And there I'm trying to influence the relationship axis, right? I'm making promises. I'm making us, our relationship get more richer because now there is a deal between us, right? This is just one of the examples. And how to get to move people from one area to another, right? For example, if I want to cooperate with you and you really want to compete, in that case, what I need to do is, well, result is important to both of us, which is still fine. I just need to make sure, okay, do you really want to fight over this? Because, what kind of relationship we're going to have in the end, right? Like, don't forget that we also need to work tomorrow together. Let's rather talk and find a way that works for both of us, right? Those type of sentences, I'm directly influencing the relationship. I'm not telling you that this is easy to do. Again, this is generally the conflict management skills are more difficult than the feedback ones, and that's why I usually teach them after feedback. But this is how you basically strategize about resolving those conflicts. And I'm pretty sure some of these things you're already doing, but you're not necessarily conscious about it. I just wanted to give a couple of examples, but this is when I prepare myself for conflicts, or even in the real time, depending how good I am or not tired. I'm doing this calculation or this strategizing in my head or on a piece of paper. Any questions, Felix, before we move to the last part of presentation?
There's none.
There is none. Okay, good. I'll try to speed it up because I'm seeing I am running out of time. Sources of conflict, right? So conflicts or conflict situations are not necessarily one-sided, or there is only one source, right? And if we, like toilet paper, which was very simple example from the beginning, right? If we resolve toilet paper, then it's fine. Most of them, especially those more difficult ones, have multiple sources, or can have multiple, right? And I just wanted you to bring your attention to those. And you can use the image I'm gonna do to basically also check off, do I have those or I don't, right? First one are individual. And those are, and here you can have some examples, right? So that's what's everything what is inside of me and inside of the other person. Nothing between us, but for example, I might not have enough knowledge. I'm just someone who is uneducated. I don't know anything about magic. And maybe you're trying to teach me this, and I get frustrated because, or let's get even better example. I am very confused by the culture where I am, right? Or maybe annoyed by that one because I don't know that, like, why nobody speaks English when I'm in, I don't know, Japan, right? And maybe I'm annoyed by that. I thought English should be spoken everywhere, international language, right? Because I'm not having this knowledge, the source of conflict is between me. It's not between the Japan or anybody else, right? Again, values, styles, experiences, right? If someone is inexperienced, they might be frustrated with the situation because they don't have knowledge or experience how to deal with that. Or it might be the first time happening something, and then they're just in shock, right? Emotional intelligence, IQ, EQ, right? Those things there. So everything happened within a person. Especially values is the important one, right? Then everything happening between two people. And by the way, individual sources of conflict, I could have one set and the other person can the other set, and we could be conflicting over different values and stuff like that, right? But then this is an example of values in relationship where I have one set of values, they have another, and we are conflicting over that, right? That's happening between us. But I might have a value where I say, or belief, which should also be somewhere here. I don't believe in, okay, let me take another one. Racism, as an extreme example, is a set of beliefs which is very individual, right? And if someone is racist towards me, well, I cannot change my race. I cannot deal with that one, right? But it's with them. Just taking as an extreme example. Relationship is already something we can tackle because takes two to tango, right? Takes two people to have a relationship. So some past or legacy event might have happened, right? Oh, last time I was working with that person, it went really, really bad. And now I'm seeing on a list events for the Magic Fest or GP that I need to work with them in the same team again. Oh, or reputation. Oh my God, that person is very scary to work with, right? They're very strict. They're very, it's probably going to be very rough, so let me be safe. And you can be getting into, passive aggressive / artificial harmony situation before even meeting or speaking with the person, right? So that's a, for me, interesting example of reputation, of a relationship conflict without even actually meeting the person. Another one is organizational, and you have also culture there. So, if we are in an organization or team that basically say, if I come to my team and says, the person who is the first done with the deck check is gonna get a candy, or is the best, or I'm gonna recommend them, or the first person from you two who does this is gonna get my level 2, my level 3 recommendation, right? That also creates a certain conflict between those two people, right? Just because I create a certain culture within my sentence, right? And that's one of the things you can find in organizations where you say, okay, I want teamwork, but the first person to reach the goal is going to get promoted, right? Those things don't work. Again, coming back to those habits or values that was presented by Ron in the previous one, right? So that's relationship. Another one is environmental. And this is, I find, extremely important because we quite often don't look into them. And talking about physical, for example, coming back to the QJS example from feedback, asking permission for feedback. It's not about asking permission because we want to get it, but it's basically about, I would maybe phrase it as trying to see if it's a good situation to go into the feedback, especially if it's a critical one, right? Example, do I want to give a critical feedback in front of a group, or do I want to give it in a one-on-one setting? Do we have enough time? Do we have enough privacy to give critical feedback, right? So these are all elements of a physical. Mood. I'm now talking to you for almost an hour about a theory without a lot of interaction, and some of you haven't had dinner yet, right? Is this the right time to have a conference, for example, right? Maybe should I speed up? Politics. Politics is more about culture, organization as well, right? Company culture, have it there. And information is, are we missing certain information, right? Are we supposed to start the conference at 4:00? Oh, that was 4:00 Manila time. Oof, I'm in a different time zone, right? And as soon as I know why I was late because if I had my fact wrong, well, then the conflict is resolved and I know that, oops, it was on my end. Perspectives, opinion, similar. So that's basically it. Questions about this part before we move to the closing? But it's already Q&A. I'm gonna kill my slides just to see the comments. Any questions about sources? And I see Christian is answering quite a lot of them. Any questions, comments? Anybody?
Anyone has a question? Feel free to type in your question now.
Yeah, about sources of conflict. I'm gonna still keep it open a little bit.
Phil asked if you will be sharing the slides later.
Yes, I have sent you the slides already, right?
To me, yes.
Yeah, so be
I'll
free to
share
share
them.
them. If there is a space where you can share them, be free
Yeah,
to.
I will share these slides tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, but what you can also do is somewhere around the same set of articles I wrote about feedback should be also a set of articles about conflict management. I'm going into much more details about this. And there are, like, for example, one of the way how I'm using these sources of conflict, besides trying to cut a conflict and see, okay, what are potential sources, I can tell you that the more towards the center of the issue you are, the easier they are to solve, right? So informational sources are easier. So we just need to do a fact checking. We need to Google to find the right answer. These are much more easy to solve than, person's values. And I would say that individual sources of conflict you probably cannot solve. And probably if you have a conflict where there is a huge individual source, you might want to consider avoiding that conflict at all if possible, right? Not working with a person or something like that. Again, be very mindful about the environmental aspects because those are some that you can very easily resolve, but we usually as humans do not pay attention to them. Oh, I have a strong need to give feedback, I want to give it now. And if I'm now giving it towards the end of the day when everybody's tired, in front of everybody, well, and I just wanted to give feedback and help the person, but the whole thing exploded. So that's basically what I want to share with this slide. I know there is a lot of information. I know there is a lot of things here. And if there is, again, one point I wanted you to take away with you is knowing that trying to resolve conflicts and not just avoiding them, you could end up with a better relationship. You could end up with a better future than if you just try to put it under the carpet. And with that, I want to say thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm still here.
Yes, we still have time, so
To be honest, I lost a little bit how much time I have, so I speed it up towards the end. Maybe a couple of things. Also, what to do next? What's your next step? If you want to become a better about conflict management, I suggest get very good at giving and receiving feedback, because by doing that, you are actually going to start learning all of these principles. So go back to the QJ's presentation, go back to the articles, and start with that. Because if you jump now into the conflict management, and if you don't have ability to give and manage, let's say, difficult feedback situations, well, you're probably jumping on a more difficult thing to try to solve. So I would start with that if I were you. Again, look at the articles, because it goes into much more details. And out of those things there in the articles or in Hugh's presentation, pick one thing and do it for a month until you believe you're fine. And then move to the next one. Like, try to get better at giving the observations which are more objective, or trying to differentiate, okay, when I now gave certain observation, where was it? Was it on the more objective or subjective spectrum, right? There are two questions. Cool. Now I can actually see them, and I can stop sharing. So, from Richard, I have never judged in GP, but attended as player several times. I'm also interested in conflict related to language barriers since I experienced it myself. Do you have an experience handling this kind of dispute during GPs? Yes, especially my first time in Japan, where I remember when there was a conflict with a language barrier, where I had a team of Japanese judges, and I asked one of our two people, could you please do this? And they said, hi, which means yes, which I knew. And then I came back later, and nothing has happened. And I was confused because they talked to me back and they said yes. Then I learned, hi doesn't mean yes, I will do it, but yes, I will understand you. So coming back to those sources, as soon as I got my facts straight and know what the culture is, that conflict resolved, because I wasn't, my, let's say, irritation towards why this didn't happen disappeared, right? So I managed to solve the source which was in the center, and that was easier to do. So coming back to your more general question is language barrier. So it's probably going to be a factual version of a conflict, right? Or because we just don't understand each other. What is important is to be aware that we do not understand each other and try a way how we can understand each other, right? This can be one of the things what you can do on your side is to be patient, be knowing that, okay, this today is potentially going to be difficult because I'm going to be playing / working / judging in an environment where I will not be able to either express myself to the level I want, or I won't be able to understand others to the level I'm used to or want to. Doing that as a start helps a lot, because you're going to be kinder towards whatever comes to you, and you're going to be kinder to yourself. And that's what people are going to feel, because the way how you deal with people, the way how you feel those things, people feel how you annoyed, are you aggressive, and those things, travel across cultures and language barriers. So that's what I do for myself. Whenever I'm going to Japan, or when I'm going in a situation where I'll be judging in a language I probably not understand, I start with that one. You can also prepare yourself by seeking some advice or gaining additional knowledge, right? I had a mentor, Gerard, who was actually teaching me how to work in Japan. teaching about the culture. I also had, I actually spent almost a month before the event in Japan trying to learn the culture so I can understand their behaviors and where it's coming from, right? So you can do a lot of on yourself. But a bit more practical. If I find myself in that situation and I didn't do all this homework, what do I do then? If I'm a player, I might call a judge because there is probably going to be some local judge who can speak English and whatever the local language is, and this could resolve it, right? So I am, if you remember to those three, how I call them, aspects of a conflict or ingredients, I'm looking for someone who can mediate, right? This property rights thingy, right? Because, yeah, in my case, I'm right because I want to understand, and the person is also right, so we're not going to get there. The ruling is whatever, that's a scarce thing, right? So I'm calling a judge to mediate between us, and that's how I'm resolving the conflict. That's what I would recommend. If you're a judge, well, call another judge. They usually on a bigger events, you usually have a teams which are always consisting of a local speaking judges and foreigners, so that if there is any need for translations and language barrier issues, you can do that. And then I could get into how to delegate the calls and stuff like that, but it's a different topic. So Richard, do let me know in the comments if this has answered it or not. And I'm gonna, in the meantime, go to the next question. So how do you deal with difference in opinion when working during a GP major event? Let's say a judge call. Is it a difference opinion between the players or difference opinion between the judges? I'm going to assume if it's between the players, right? And if I see the things are escalating, I'm going to de-escalate them, like separate. If we have in the investigation scenario, I can also separate judges, even if I'm not players, even if I'm not investigating, because they want to de-escalate, right? If you remember conflict spectrum, there was aggression. I'm actually de-escalating, moving towards the middle. If I'm seeing a situation in which, let's say, there is a difference of opinion, but someone is aggressive towards the other person, right? Then what I'm going to do is de-escalate the aggressive person. Okay, please let the other speak and create a safe environment so the other person can speak, which means I'm going to ask the person, okay, what happens? I'm interested in what you have to say. And by doing that, again, just from the perspective of conflict management, I'm moving the person from the passive-aggressive stance into the more active stance, right? Where I'm telling the person, okay, please speak, it's safe for you right now. And in the end, since I'm the judge and I'm the authority there, my ruling is going to be final unless they appeal to the head judge, unless I'm head judge as well, right? So, and that basically covers it because all of these players around agreed that the judge is the final authority in the ruling, right? So, Ace, do let me know if I answered your question in the comments below, like a YouTube.
By the way, Richard already said yes. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. So Ace, please do let me know, or is there a scenario that I haven't caught? Maybe I'll just quickly jump what happens if there are multiple judges. Let's say if there is dispute between the judges. Well, you can always look for, is there a more senior judge around there, right? And that's, again, if you look for the conflict ingredients, we're looking for a mediator who can, dispute the property rights or who can basically mediate between us, who can judge between us, right? That's one way how you can do. You can also do the disciplinary stuff about, okay, causing a scene, customer service and stuff like that, but that's more goes into I am diverting that question to QJ and saying, how do you deal with a critical feedback if somebody is yelling in front of others, right? Or two judges fighting in front of the audience. So that's more a critical feedback situation, which is also a conflict situation, but new conflict. Okay, in my local game store, there is a player who is blatantly cheats. Everyone knows he cheats, and the community has voiced their opinion regarding this particular player. So, assuming what you want to do, and I can ask myself, and I'm now going to go into these strategies of resolving conflict. Okay, that's probably a very messy thing. Then the question is, how much do I care about solving this situation? Yes or no? And is there a way for someone else to be able to resolve this thing altogether? Or am I able to resolve this situation from a judge? Like in Europe, I would say I can't because the local game store owner is the only person who can decide if someone is able to attend or not the events. So, and I might be able to defer there. So the question is there, in which strategy am I using? Am I trying to compete, which means I have decided that this person is no longer gonna be at this event, or at this, sorry, not event, at this, play at these events at this store, right? If I'm in I'm in the competing stance.
Sorry, Ivan. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off, but there's a continuation to his
Okay.
question.
To the previous one. I'm gonna come back into second just to answer Ryan and then go into the, and Felix, by the way, you cut me when you say there is no longer time.
I will. I will.
So, and then if I really, really, really want to have that person gone, then I need to think, okay, what is my relationship towards the store owner, and what is the store owner's, let's say, attitude or result area towards that person being kicked? If things are aligned, we are fine. If things are not aligned, then we are on maybe different axes and different things. Maybe you're both competing because he wants to keep the person, or want not to keep the person. That goes in then into the story, how do I move? I can give an ultimatum where I say, well, you choose between him and me, right? That's a very strong relationship thingy there that you're putting a risk, right? I'm trying to get the person to move from their point and adapt to me, because now suddenly relationship spiked, right? A lot, because if I give an ultimatum like it's either me or that or the cheater, you choose. I'm trying to very strongly and very, let's say, aggressively move the relationship axis from low to high, right? So then this goes into the strategy of, if I'm using that model, how do I move stuff around there? But maybe not to talk about the models and give you what I would do in a situation. So speak more plain English. I would talk to the store owner, see what do we align, because I need to get store owner in that case as an ally, right? That's one angle where I can go through. Other one, I can talk to the player, and I can also talk to the player to see, does the player care about relationship between him and community and myself? Again, that's another one. And does the player care about the result of playing at the tournaments, right? I could also, what I can do within my power and authority is I can make sure that he doesn't cheat during my events. I had a player like that for years when I started judging in Croatia, and that's a story I'm happy to tell you. And it was kind of a dance that worked in the end, that lasted for, let's say, a year or two. And now the person stopped playing Magic and is just a trader. At least he can cheat where it's more, let's say, politically correct to cheat others. Coming back to the follow-up. Where's the follow-up? This is a follow-up to this question. I accidentally pressed. Okay, player is a good friend of the local store, and he spent a lot. That's the follow-up you were thinking about, Felix. Sorry. Spend a lot of money on buying cards outside the game. He generally is a good guy. What would you do? And in this case, I would. Again, I need to talk to the store owner to make sure that our relationship still sustains. So I would talk to the store owner and say, okay, well, I need to do what my judging thing is. So I will DQ the person if I catch him cheating. If I catch the person cheating, right? And have a discussion with the store owner. What does this mean for the store owner, right? I'm trying to see that we are still okay with this happening, because I don't need to have two conflicts or another conflict raising with the store owner, because in the end, store owner has more power and can kick me out of their store, even as a judge. And let's say if it's the ultimate scenario where it says, well, no, this person is allowed to cheat and stuff like that, well, in that case, I can always decide to avoid the conflict and says, well, under that circumstances, I'm not willing to work with you anymore. And again, it's very difficult for me to give an answer because context is the king here, and I don't know what does this store owner mean to you, relationships together, and history, right? Legacy events and paths, maybe those things, reputations of each individual people. I don't think having any type of witch hunt from the community aspect is going to be helpful. I would suggest not to do that, because it puts you in a very weird situation, because it suddenly becomes personal, and I don't think anybody has the right to be the ultimate judge or witch hunt of that one, right? So that's the only thing I would suggest keeping away from.
Okay, I believe we have one last question, or one question
Okay.
here.
Yeah. How do you resolve a conflict where the other party is not satisfied with compromise, but rather they have to win? Okay, good. So I'm going to assume that this is a question is where I try to move the person to compromise and I failed, right? That means that the person doesn't care about having any future relationship with me, or is aware that this type of that the competition is the most important. So I'm assuming that for that person, the winning is more important um, than our relationship. Okay, like in a good feedback situation, I would like to try to understand the side of that person. Okay, is there, maybe I do not understand why does a person need to win. So I'd like to try to understand that one, because by doing that I might decide to adopt to that person, because maybe that win is not as important to me as they are, and by that I might actually build a bit of relationship by doing that, right? Secondly, I could by understand again by understanding, trying to understand the other person, you're automatically building some relationship, and that might also change something in the other person. So what I would need in that case, I would need to be able to talk to the person, and the person be willing to talk to me. So to have an open communication channel. That's a maybe general answer I can give, because again, resolving any of these conflicts or feedback situations, you usually need to understand the context, and then when I understand the context, then I can give them a better, let's say, advices, which is usually what I do when I'm coaching managers and also other clients. Does this answer the question, Mark?
Yeah, Mark uh, said well answered.
Yeah.
Ryan said thank you, and same goes to Ace. So there. With that, we thank you, Ivan, and to everyone. As we've discussed today, feedback is very important. QJ opened it up. It was discussed and brought up more than once. So, okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to send a link. If you are more into listening, I'll be sending a link to a Judge Cast, one of their archive. It's about overviewing reviews. So that could help you writing reviews. So let me share the link for that. And then with Ivan's permission, I'm going to share his article 2 years ago, almost 2 years
Yeah.
ago, almost 3 years ago, sorry,
Yeah, I'm
regarding
getting
feedback.
old.
So there, for those who are not that comfortable or not familiar with doing feedback, you have a guide here already. There are two links that I shared. One is for audio. Again, that's an archive from JudgeCast. It was a way back 2017, and Ivan's article series. It's a three-part series, right? The feedback article. So there. With that, I hope you guys save the link, and I thank you for the time. We thank you, the presenters, for sharing their knowledge, and I'll see you folks tomorrow, 4 p.m. Manila.